Hello and welcome. So first of all, welcome to my little pad in Bali where I'm staying for a few days before I head back to Thailand. And in this video, I want to share with you a very simple protocol. Let's call it a balancing technique that you can practice to help improve your digestion. Now, if you've seen any of my previous posts, my previous writings or videos where I talk about digestion, you'll notice that I come at it from quite a different angle to what the usual approach is. So the usual approach is I have a strong negative reaction. I eat something, I have a strong negative reaction. I have some kind of food. I diagnose, whether self-diagnosis or somebody else diagnoses me as I have some kind of food intolerance, food allergy. And so therefore the treatment approach is to remove that particular item from my diet, and that solves the problem. That's not the way that I go about it. The way that I work with it and I work with clients is that the understanding is that it's not due to the food. 8 times out of 10, it's not the food that's causing the problem. There's some kind of internal physiological dysfunction or impairment. We could call it something like the organ chi health. We can call it like the circulation. Basically, something inside the system is impaired, which creates a strong negative reaction to when it's exposed to certain things. Okay, so with this understanding, if it's not the food, how do we correct it? We correct it by correcting and clearing out the internal physiological impairment. Once we clear out and deal with the internal physiological impairment, then what tends to happen is that the allergens, the sensitivities tend to disappear. Then you'll be able to handle most foods with ease. Because essentially what I've noticed is happening, and you may have already seen this in yourself or in other people, is that it tends to start off with a small, maybe 1 or 2 items that you become sensitive to. Maybe it's bread. So the list starts, oh, I'm sensitive to bread, I'm gluten intolerant, I can't handle that. So I remove that from my diet. Over time though, if the internal state is not addressed, the list starts growing. Oh, now I'm allergic to dairy. The next thing is, oh, now I'm allergic to this, now I'm allergic to that. And so what you'll notice is the list over time increases. So now the person can hardly eat anything. Then what I've also noticed, it tends to spill out into other areas of our life. The person becomes hypersensitive to certain environments due to certain pollutants or whatever it may be. So now there's a list. I can't do with this environment. I can't be in traffic. I can't live in a city. I can't do this. I can't do that. So now there's a huge list of environments that the person cannot be around due to a hyper negative reaction. Then it can even spill out into people. I can't deal with this person makes me feel a certain way, I have to avoid this person, this place, this food, and the lists continue to increase. And what this does essentially is it creates an individual who is increasingly isolated, increasingly worried that the next thing they try is going to send them off. They become increasingly fearful, and basically you become a way of living that is increasingly small. This is no way to live a full life. This is not what living a life is. Avoiding everything because it might set off a negative reaction. This view is saying that it's something else outside of me that I cannot handle. And so I have to avoid that. This is essentially a victimhood mentality. This does not empower, it disempowers us. And this is the most common thing that people are preaching at the moment. What I approach it with and what I work with my clients and what I'm teaching is that it's about correcting the internal physiological dysfunction and building your chi in such a way that your internal state becomes clear, it becomes essentially robust. You become a strong individual, your immune system becomes strong, and so this means that most foods will not affect you in a negative way. It means you can enjoy all the foods without it affecting you in such a bad way or having a strong reaction to it. It also means that you can handle most environments without a strong reaction to it. It can also mean you can handle most people without a strong reaction to them, because there's an internal state of power, there's an internal state of chi, there's an internal state of function which is high. And you can handle the full spectrum of life. And this is what life is about. It's about being able to experience the full spectrum of life and not avoiding it. So the next question is how to do that, how to correct this internal sensitivity to food. Okay, so there's a few things I want to touch upon here to explain why this is happening. The main reason that there's a hypersensitivity or a dysfunction inside the system is not due to the physicality of the body. It's due to predominantly the mind, the subconscious mind, the emotional body, and to some extent the spiritual or the consciousness body. To help us understand this a bit more, it may be helpful to understand or look at it is that the mind is not inside your body. The body is actually inside the mind. And consciousness, or the field, is one step bigger than that. So the mind is inside the field, or the mind is inside consciousness itself. We could call this the spiritual self. So I'm going a little bit off track here, but I won't spend too much time here. So it's just a framework of understanding, because once you get this, it will help you understand how disease is mostly created and how to change disease on the most powerful level. So the physical body is inside the mind. The mind, all its layers, including the subconscious mind, is inside consciousness or the field or the spiritual essence. And each level is stronger and more powerful than the other. So if you're able to change something in the mind, it'll flow through and change the body. The body in and of itself does not hold much power. It is largely dictated by the mind, so conscious and subconscious. So the impairment of digestion is primarily, 80% of the time, is primarily due to what we have in the mind and the emotional body. Mind and emotions are very similar. Again, it's another video to talk more about that. But basically, what's happening in the mind, the conditioning of the mind, subconscious levels of mind, and the experience of the emotional body is largely influencing the physiological function of the body. And this is what's causing the digestive problems. So what's significant here on this level, if it is the mind which is dominating the physiological impairment, which is the most powerful aspect of the mind? It's the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is primarily running the show. It makes up for about 95% of our behavior is dictated by subconscious levels of mind, which is conditioning, which is what we've picked up, and it's also due to a lot of memory. So memory has happened and it's stored in subconscious mind. Whenever we have some kind of traumatic experience or a strong emotional experience in the past, it has been stored for various reasons. And where does the subconscious mind store all this stuff? Let's call it trauma, let's call it negative experiences, let's call it negative emotions. It stores it inside the physical body and the energy body as well. So this storage has stored itself, and in the Chinese medical system they discovered that certain organs store certain particular emotions more than others. For example, the liver tends to store anger, the kidneys tend to store fear, the stomach tends to store doubt, the lungs tend to store grief, and so on. So this is what is happening, and this is why the digestive is impaired, because through our lives we've been accumulating a huge amount of memory, negative feelings, which when left unprocessed and undealt with are stored inside the system, stored in the stomach, which we're going to be working on today is the stomach, the small intestine, and the liver I have found to be the primary organs in charge of digestion. And so we've been accumulating huge amounts of this stuff. And how does it get in there? How does things like guilt, which is one of the main emotions that is impairing a lot of us, how does anger get in there? Like I said, 90-95% of this stuff is subconscious, which means we're not aware of what's going on. Guilt, for example, gets in very subtly. For example, every time you say inside yourself, I should be doing this. I should be exercising more. I should be working instead of watching Netflix. I shouldn't be eating this. I should be eating that. Da 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 da. All these I shoulds creates actually a guilt pattern, a guilt emotion, which then goes and gets stored deep inside subconscious mind, which is stored inside the body. So the more that we run these programs, the more that we accumulate these emotions, and the more it impairs our function. When it comes to digestion, which is very interesting, the very act of worrying about what foods to eat or not eat, the more we worry, it actually stores subconsciously and impairs digestion itself. So it's kind of like the more that we worry about what foods to eat and what we shouldn't eat and what's good for us, the more we impair our function, which then makes our health worse. So it's the worry of our health which often is creating health problems. Do you see that? It's kind of like a cycle. And you'll notice in some people, especially in the health field, the more obsessive someone becomes about their health and which foods to eat, the more they seem to get sick. No matter how healthy they eat, no matter how many million exercise or yoga classes they do, if the mind is full of worry, full of fear, full of tension, it's actually that worry which is stronger and is causing a majority of the problems, which is making the health worse. So if the person was able to release a lot of the fear and the worry around the health, you'll notice that their health will naturally improve. Even if they back off certain health foods or certain exercises, they will probably, and what tends to happen is that their general well-being will improve, their health will improve, their mental health will improve. So do you see this, what's happening here? It's mainly the mind, subconscious mind, which is causing the problems. So how do we correct it? We can correct it using a variety of techniques. The one that I'm going to show you today comes out of the field of, let's call it energy psychology. And it's really a combination of many things: applied kinesiology, energy medicine, Chinese medicine. And what I'm going to be sharing with you is a very sort of general protocol which tends to help most people. Now, if you need more support, if you need to individualize treatment, because everyone's a bit different, there's certain different patterns that people have that require specific balancing for that particular problem. For example, a particular trauma is very specific to a person. So in order to actually clear that specific trauma, you do need the extra support of a therapist or someone who knows what they're doing to be able to actually access that particular trauma that's stored in the system and clear that. The protocol we're going to be doing is more general. It'll still work, but if you find that that problems continue, then it's likely there's a specific trauma that needs to be cleared. Okay, so let's do it. So the first thing we need to understand is that this system, what I'm talking about, the mind, subconscious mind, the emotional body, the consciousness, the energy body, and the physical body, is a very sophisticated, super sophisticated biocomputer. And so in order to understand and treat this biocomputer and make it function better, we have to understand how it works. And this is one of the main problems with our schooling system, and what's causing most of our health problems, most of our depression, is that most human beings have no idea how to operate this sophisticated biocomputer. We've got no training, no understanding. Most people understand how to use their smartphone better than how to actually operate their own biocomputer. Okay, so there's no wonder why we've got all this disease and all these problems. So an education in understanding this biocomputer is going to be helpful and should be essential actually for the future generations and so forth. This is a topic for another time, but this is where my work is as well, is that I help people understand how the energy system works, how to manage and govern your internal chemistry, how your mind works, so that you have a better chance and better understanding about how to manage this system and get it to work for you and not against you. Of course, we can find a lot of these teachings in the yoga system, in Chinese medicine to some extent, but this new field, which we call energy psychology, and this new field of understanding what subconscious mind, how it works, how the brain works, neuroscience, it is all coming together at the moment, which is very exciting. Once we are able to bridge and better understand neuroscience, the energy body, the chemical body, how the mind works, how the subconscious mind works, then we are becoming human beings that are able to self-manage, self-govern, optimize their system, optimize their function without depending or becoming disempowered via the current sort of systems that are in place. So again, I'm going on a bit of a tangent. So let's do the balance. So the first thing, part of the balance, is we're going to focus on the stomach, small intestine, and the liver. So to access this, we want to tell the body, we want to tell the biocomputer what we want to access. So bring two fingers together like this and bring them and place them on your solar plexus. So this is telling our body where we want to access, and then we say these words. So repeat these words after me: stomach, small intestine, and liver. Then we're going to add the elements. So say these words after me: fire, earth, and wood. Access the emotions, which are love, hate, anger, doubt, apprehension, guilt, and any other emotions I'm aware of and not aware of. Good. So now we've accumulated all that information. Now we correct. So bring the fingers like this, and where I place them is just above the eyes. So there's a divot. If I go straight up here, there's a divot on the forehead. So I place my fingers onto these points, correction points, and then I take 3 deep breaths. With the internal dialogue of I release and let go. And then we release. Good. So that's it. I'll take you through it again one more time. So the first thing, we want to tell the body where we want to go. So here, place on the solar plexus, say these words to access the organs: stomach, small intestine, and liver. Elements are fire, earth, wood. Emotions: love, hate, anger, doubt, apprehension, guilt, and let's throw worry in there as well. And all the emotions I'm aware of and not aware of. Correction, above the eyes, 3 deep breaths. Good. So have a sip of water if you've got some water nearby. And so this is a simple protocol that you can practice anytime. I would say practice this at least once every day for the next week. It only takes about a minute to do it. And you may already notice a change in the feeling around your solar plexus region. Notice how you feel the next hour or so when you stand up and walk around, if there's any less tension in the solar plexus region. So for most people, they'll notice like a slow reduction in the tension in that area as the emotions get released. And this is what we're aiming for. Basically, over time, when we release and clear all the emotions, again, it depends on the individual. There may be some more specific things that may need a specialized focus, but for most people, you'll already start noticing a reduction in the tension in that area. When I did it yesterday, as an experiment, my gut started turning, not in a bad way, but they started flowing, the digestion moved through a lot easier yesterday, about an hour after I did this. So these are all good signs that the emotions are being cleared from the system. And essentially, this is what the essence of this message is, in this video, is that it's the accumulation of trauma, memories, negative feelings, which is being stored in the system via subconscious mind, and that this is the primary cause of digestive dysfunction. So the treatment or the approach that I work with and that I'm experienced with is that you've got to release all this accumulation, this backlog, this years and years of backlog, so that the system, the chi, is able to flow more easily. And basically, once you're free of the majority of this accumulated negative impairment, is that energy flows easier. And when energy flows easier, you'll notice more space open up inside your body, like flexibility naturally improves, but also mind starts calming down. You'll also notice just general overall function will improve, digestive function, immune system function will improve. Other things like intuition will improve, intelligence will improve, relaxation will be naturally there. Basically, all these positive things start occurring naturally because they're the natural state of being when the system is at ease and when the system is flowing. And that's what we're aiming for here. Clear the accumulated backlog of unprocessed emotion, subconscious program, and then everything starts to improve. And this is the primary focus of how to improve your digestion. If you have any questions about this, let me know. If you want to work more together to clear things faster, to clear things that are more specific for you, then please get in touch. I have a program available at the moment where I'm working with people for 3 months. And this 3-month process allows us to remove and clear huge amounts of backlog, changing any and all aspects of life. So that's it from me. Thank you for your patience. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.